What's going on, everybody? I'm back again today, and this time I wanted to go over the budget gearing a bit. I've had a couple people ask me what what they think or what I think, as far as like budget pieces, what pieces are viable. And I mean, as we know, or if you're playing enough, the Slayer sets and things like that, they're kind of hard to come by. They're pretty pricey. And so I wanted to kind of go over some of the pieces that wouldn't be quite as pricey and just wouldn't necessarily, they're not going to necessarily be your end to end game. They're your best in slot, but they'll do the job for you to start. So I'm using, this is the Google Doc. As you can see, this is the Google Doc that I linked in yesterday's video where I went over the rune words. It also has an item list, and this here has all of the, other than the weapons, it doesn't have the stats for weapons yet, but it does have all of the every single item and the stats that it has and the tier that it's in. So I'm just gonna kind of quickly go through as quick as I can. It's a lot of information here, so I'm gonna make sure I link this in the description so you can check it out yourself and go through it. I'm gonna go through as quickly as I can and point out the pieces that I think are good pieces to strive for early on, and get you into some, at the bare minimum, get you a damage, because there's, no matter what, throughout every single item category, there's gonna be pieces like Curse of Blood that have armor, stam. This one is decent, right? It has attack speed too. It has all res, so that would be a great choice, right? But it doesn't have fizz damage. So I figured let's specifically point out the pieces that can roll fizz and can be useful on more of a budget. And as we know, fizz is the least budget friendly damage type right now, with how many classes use physical damage in general, and then DemonSlayer being where it's at right now in terms of popularity. But that being said, let's jump into it straight out the gate and look at helmets to start. And I'm just going to go down to, for starters, if you can get a helm with a Dominator, that's going to be a great option if it rolls fizz. So Judge, Jury, and Executioner is rarer. That one might be your pre-boss sets. That's going to be your BIS. And then other than that, it is all the way down here at the Colossal Avenger. B tier item, has fizz damage, strength, armor, stam, percent strength, and your 2 reses. This one is going to be great for you if you don't have anything, or if you do have, you've looted a satanic that was off damage type that you were using. You say you were using Thunder Glory because you looted that first. This is going to be a great upgrade for that, where you'll be utilizing every single stat. Then that basically covers helmets. Yeah, nothing else that I really want to point out with helmets. As far as your body armor, I'm going to go right down to Gladiator's Demise. Currently, the chest piece that I am using, this is your B tier, physical damage only chest piece. It's got the armor, strength, stam, attack speed, damage, which is fizz, percent fizz damage, strength, percent strength again, and good reses. This one's great. As far as like off damage type goes, there are a few chest pieces that I pointed out the Curse of Blood that doesn't have fizz, but has some. It will give you damage technically, right? Because it has attack speed on it. This one is pretty common, being C tier. Dark Shroud. This one's going to be quite a bit rarer, and a bit pricier because it's crit rate, crit damage. But if you get that, I'd use it. Other than that, things like Leviathan. Anytime you can get a piece like this, if you can't get a fizz damage piece, it utilizing every single stat for you, even though it's only defenses, it's still utilizing every single bit of stat that it's applying. If you loot this one, Lichbane, the poison damage is taking up stats that, they're only going to put so many stats onto a piece of gear. So it's taking up stats and making them unusable. So getting something like a Leviathan is pretty much always going to be better than Lichbane, I mean, it literally will have more defenses than Gladiator's Demise, but you're not getting the damage. Whereas, Gladiator's Demise, you're going to get defenses still, but you're getting a crap load of strength and the fizz damage to boot. Moving on to boots. Ooh. Your B tier, low tier, this is going to be your piece you want to go for. Assassin's Boots. If you can get these are going to be the way to go in the early. They have some attack speed too, and the random reses. This is just going to be your straightforward. A few notable, little bit pricier ones. Assassin's Shadow Boots. These ones, I don't know how much these are, but I wager they're pretty darn expensive. Non-damage type ones. Boots of Blood, Diamond Greaves, really great. Boots of the Golden God. I haven't got to test these out yet, but having the +1 to all talents, these are probably pretty viable if you can get these. These ones are probably going to work out for you pretty well. And then otherwise, I think that's it. Oh yeah, Tribal Boots. These ones are kind of... They're elemental damage. So yes, they give you damage, even though, because Fizz is an element in Hero Siege. Yes, they give you damage, but it's low. So I'll use them if this is what you get, but try to get something else sooner, ideally. Yeah, because it's just they're not going to give you quite as much. Moving on to gloves. Your B tier, Fizz only possible to roll is going to be War Master's Tribal Paws. If you can get these are great. They have attack speed, strength, fizz damage, covers everything you need. But if you happen to get, say, Throat Cutters and they roll fizz, these ones are also a viable option. And they have some crit damage on them too, so they kind of get a little bit. I don't know if they're better per se, or worse. It would just depend on how all your stats are coming together. But these ones are also a great option if they roll fizz. Notable non-damage ones are going to be Scarab Gauntlets and Scuttlecrab Gauntlets. Both of these are great defensive as far as covering your reses, and because that is going to be important. You want to make sure when you're getting into Inferno, you don't necessarily need to have all of your reses capped out right away, but your reses should be not negative if you're going into Inferno. If your reses are negative when you go into Inferno, do not do it, because you will just get pretty bodied by the damages of things that you have negative res for. Excuse me. So yeah, I would thoroughly recommend you go for these early to help you cap your reses, and then potentially even use these. I'm still using these on my character now, the Scarab Gauntlets. Potentially even use these if you have to before trying to go for something like this, if your reses aren't doing too well. Amulet wise, All Seeing Eye is a great option, considering it has CDR life per hit and +3 to all talents, so that's a very good option. Elder's Heart is kind of whatever, but High Demons, if you get that fizz, use it. That's a great one. And your B tier fizz roll, Rift Warrior Skull, currently using it on my character. It's a great option. Gonna do a lot for you. That's gonna be your go-to. I don't think there's any other notables. Yeah, that's basically it. I guess to look out for Ravensclaw if it rolls fizz, because it's not that high of a tier, but there's just a bunch of... It can roll every damage type, so if you get a Ravensclaw and it rolls fizz, use it. I mean, to be honest, maybe sell it. If it's one of your first drops, you can sell the fizz Ravensclaws. The last time I saw, they were selling for 200 to 250,000 rubies for a fizz damage rolled Ravensclaw, because they're super good, crit damage, crit rate, so it's a super good amulet, super viable, but it's going to be expensive to buy if you happen to drop it. Use it or lose it, and by lose it I mean sell it. Okay, moving on to charms. Apple of Evolution right out the gate. It's going to be your go-to B tier fizz damage charm. The only other notable one is Raider's Torch. Can roll Fizz, but it's going to be harder to come by, being that it rolls every damage type. And comparing it to Apple of Evolution base has 1150 strength and 1860 stam, whereas this has, where'd it go? 1200 to all stats. So it has a little bit more strength, but way less stamina. And then the damage on Apple is 2450 fizz damage, whereas on Raider's Torch it would only be 1450. But Raider's Torch does have crit rate and crit damage, so you'd have to weigh your stats and see how it's feeling. But ideally, one of those two is going to be what you go for the charms. Shield, and this is more if you're using a one-hander, which ideally you probably want to be using a two-hander because you want that base weapon damage up as much as you can. But a one-hander, say like Perdition, is going to be a great option. And with that, using a shield with it obviously would come next. So AA tier Blood Ward, this is going to be your, like, probably, I don't know if this one's BIS or not. I don't really know what, I haven't looked at shields too much because I'm going for a two-hander, but this one is going to be the one you want to strive for fizz-wise. But before you get to that, your B tier Rift Eye is going to be your go-to. This is what I'm currently using on my character. Your go-to shield on the low end of things. It's going to have all the stuff you need. It's going to have your damage. It's going to get you there. A couple other notable non-damage type ones, like Thunderlord's Aegis, super high attack speed, still has all stats, still has armor, block, reduction, all that stuff, but the attack speed's really good. This is a good one if you can get this. It doesn't have damage, but that attack speed is really high, and so that would be very good for getting your procs out as much as you can. Tombstone's a decent defensive one. And then there's Ward of Toxicity, which is going to be like the cheapest, most common shield. And it's elemental damage, so it does apply to us, since Fizz is, again, an element in this game. So yeah, that's going to be the like very, very starter shield probably, but then you'll want to strive for getting that Rift Eye as soon as you can. Rings are very much in the category, if you don't have a ring, every single one of these rings are going to be usable, right? Every single one of them. But as far as like striving for one specifically, your Demon Eye ring is going to be one of your more Demon Eye or Dragon Steel. Those are going to be the two more decent damage ones. But Satanic Eye, it's literally the lowest tier ring and provides some of the best defensive level of any of them, having 50% to all resistances and increasing your max by 6%. But I believe you need like 95% plus on the quality to get 6%, but still super, super good. But again, otherwise, like, the all stats on all of these other rings is so good that it'll be better than any mythic you get. Belts, your B tier belt is going to be Warrior's Belt. This is going to be your most budget-friendly fizz damage belt. Just good attack speed, what more can you ask for? If you can get a tribal belt, that's also a decent option. But I almost like Warrior's Belt a little bit better because it does have the attack speed. That one's going to be kind of up to you. Really, they'll probably be pretty similar in price, to be honest. Otherwise, these two, Commander Sash and Monkey Skin Belt, they are the more expensive belts, rarer belts, but if they're only one socket, you can maybe get them on the cheaper side. Because, budget, in the budget end, we don't care about the sockets yet, right? So, that +1 is going to be decent no matter what, and, people are probably going to be more willing to let go of lower socket count items for a little bit cheaper than if those are 3 sockets, those are going to be quite expensive. Moving on to potions. Potions are more optional. You're probably going to be using the regular potion for a while until you're hitting the point where basically you're only going to get one shot or be at full health. But Witch's Potion is going to be decent because it does still have the heal, so you do still get a healing pot, but then it also has max HP and percent HP. If you want damage, then Elixir of Death, Magadai Elixir, both going to be decent options. Protein Shake is a good one as far as just decent stats, and I think it's a percent strength buff for the duration. For defensively, though, the three you're going to want to look out for: Blood of Spartan, Praetorian Blood, and Ghostly Potion. So, Blood of Spartan, reduction, Praetorian Blood, armor, and then Stone Skin is massive, 200% increased armor during the effect. Ghostly Potion, obviously the plus to all talents is a more damage thing, but Vanish, it makes you invisible, so you are not targetable by the mobs. And from my testing that I've seen, doing damage does not break the invisibility. So it's pretty darn good for making you not targeted and stuff like that, and just breaking aggro and getting everything to start hitting your mercenary again. Aside from that, that would probably cover the pots for the budget. Then we go into weapons, which I'm using the wiki because the stats aren't on the Google Doc yet. But really, for the wiki, let's look at just C and B tier weapons. Really, no matter what, any of these weapons, if you have a mythic weapon, again, any of these weapons are going to be better for you. But let's say you already have one, or let's just pretend you have Shattered Dimensions, right? You just don't want to upgrade it, though. It's really slow attack speed. Actually, it's not that bad. I was thinking, I don't know what I was saying. But just say you have whatever two-handed weapon or one-handed, you want to go for specifically Fizz. This one is decent damage, but pretty low attack speed. That was, for me, it was at about 1.24 attacks per second when I had it on my previous DemonSlayer, and it felt kind of bad as far as getting the procs out. So, I mean, if you find it, use it, obviously. With any of these, if you find them, even if this is the first Satanic you pick up right here, I'd probably use it. Even though it's cold damage, I'd probably use it, because base damage is so important. Case in point, again, my Perdition. Fire damage. Still works, I'm still... Look, pulling, 7 mil, 6 mil DPS or so. I'm still pulling it off, so it's got me into Inferno. So yeah, these, first thing you get, use it. This one, though, I probably wouldn't shoot for buying this one. The attack speed is just so low. This one, if you can get this one with Fizz, get that. That is going to carry you for a long time if you can get that with Fizz. Really, this one would be probably less than ideal. If you loot it with Fizz, I'd use it, but I wouldn't go out of my way to buy the Godfather. This one is probably in the category of avoid, especially because it's split damage, although if it's the first thing you pick up, again, use it. If you're looking to buy a Satanic, Ashbringer is very good if you can get Fizz on it. It's got great attack speed, HP per hit, mana per hit. It's a good option. The Undying I would avoid, because the damage on it is not amazing, because this one is more supposed to be about defensives. It's supposed to be like a tanking weapon, like damage return, block, and dodge. So this one's less than ideal. And then otherwise, I think the last couple in B tier, like Odin's Battle Axe, if you get that with Fizz, that's going to be a really decent option. Still on that low end of attack speed, though. So your procs aren't going to feel great. But, and same with Light of Dawn. Low attack speed, elemental damage, so it applies to Fizz as well. But it's just not going to be crazy. Jade Warrior's Gladius in the same category. Hellslayer in the same category again. Low attack speed, but if you can get it with Fizz, it'll work. Hanzo's Flaming Katana is a decent one if you can get Fizz on it. That one would be also pretty good. It's got some movement speed on it too. I haven't seen this one in game, but this one seems like if you get Fizz, the crit damage and crit rate on it could make it usable. But the attack speed, it's just anytime I see low attack speed, it really does seem less than ideal. Just because most of our damage is in Slice of Shadows, so it's a 38% of proc chance. But if I'm attacking this fast, I mean, look at no proc till then. Whereas with high attack speed, we get proc after proc after proc after proc, right? So you'll still have windows where you don't proc for a second, but the slower your attack speed is, the longer those windows will feel. But yeah, so that covers that. I think really, I think one of the ones that you should strive for for a weapon is that Perdition early on. It's going to require some Inferno runes, so these are gonna not necessarily come right away. This might be like the second weapon you get technically. But a little bit of time in Inferno and you can get a few of these, and then these sell for around 20 to 25k each. So if you get a decent base, 90% quality plus, and you have 3 of these, buy the 4th and craft away. And if it's your first weapon, look, I'm using a fire one and it's still doing me fine. If it's not Fizz, I wouldn't upgrade it, but it would do you plenty good to farm Inferno 1 or Wormholes level 1. Like, that's all I've been farming. And it's working. So yeah, I would go for a Perdition early on. It's a great weapon. Not going to be your best by any means, but if you can get Fizz especially, it's pretty good. But yeah, so I think that about covers it. I hope you found this information useful, and I hope you it's a bit of a monologue, but I hope you enjoyed it somewhat. And I really do appreciate everybody tuning in and watching, and I will catch you all in the next video.